I'm a big fan of things like troubleshooting, things like quickly ask questions, reference documents, which you help the customer get what they want from it. Because a set of instructions is really only the first stage in understanding and sharing information. The next stage is to use the product or to help you get what you need from it.
Welcome to the Knowledgebase Ninjas Podcast, where Gowri Ramkumar of Document 360 finds the best SaaS self-service knowledge bases in the world and then interviews their creators. Let's get started with today's episode.
Good day, everyone. Our guest today is Kenneth Whyte, Technical Writer at Vizlib. Welcome, Kenneth, to the Knowledgebase Ninjas Podcast. Kenneth, please help us understand a little bit more about yourself. Your LinkedIn profile talks a lot about you in the space. So help me a little bit more. And then how did you initially get into documentation?
Of course. Well, first off, Gary, thank you very much for inviting me on here today. It was a real treat to be asked when you contacted me via LinkedIn. So I've been working in IT for about 20 years now. But for the last 10 years, I've been working as a technical writer. And I initially started at Transport for London on a large QA project that they had. But when I look back at my other IT roles, writing always played a part. And the main role that encouraged me was at Trainline. I worked at Trainline for 5 years as a technical support officer. And we had a very, it was the start of people using APIs, using shared resources. Mm-hmm. And we needed instructions for the customers. So the account manager, Ian Cairns, and I started developing instructions for him in areas like how to use our test harness, how to troubleshoot errors, what to look for if they got a particular exception back. And I find I really enjoyed that sort of role. So I left Trainline initially to become a trainer, but I found that there were far more writing jobs. And as time went on, when I was looking, I found the writing side much more interesting than giving training courses. So I decided to concentrate on that. And I've been very lucky. I've got to work with some fantastic companies on some great projects. The variety of areas that I've worked in has been a real surprise, and I think that's why I've enjoyed it so much. I'm currently working in data analytics. I've worked in banking in the past. I've worked with life sciences and genomics. I know genomics is a very, very hot topic right now. The business of your genes. Mm-hmm. So I've worked with transport. I've worked with consumer internet. I worked at Virgin for a while, so it's been a really enjoyable, because I didn't really enjoy work until I became a writer. And I think that maybe sounds a bit harsh, but I did jobs that I could do reasonably well, but it never really felt like my thing.
Yeah.
And when I started
just adding to your vast industrial experience, you do have a degree in Slavonic and East European studies, correct?
I do indeed, yes. So
has this unique skill set influenced your technical writing career?
I think it's helped a great deal. When I went to university in Glasgow and said that I was going to study Russian, people did wonder what I was going to do with it after. At that stage, I was just in love with the subject, and I had a fantastic 5 years. I lived in Moscow for a while. And what I've tended to find with IT as an industry is the amount of technical resources that companies in Britain use who are based in countries like Russia, Romania, Ukraine, and currently Vizlib has offices in Poland and Lithuania, which I was thrilled to be able to visit Poland last week. And, just having a little background about the culture of people's countries and a couple of words in the language, it is amazing how much help that can be and how much more smoothly it can make your work. So directly technical it maybe hasn't influenced, but I would say in terms of getting my work delivered, in terms of improving working relationships and working environments, it's been a real plus.
Nice. It's nice to see how different things comes and helps in different angles.
I know. I think everyone's. No one's been more surprised than me. But it was only in the last 5 or 6 years where I thought, actually, it was almost as if I was building up skills to finally apply them at this stage in my career, and it's been something that I've been really quite pleased to see. It all makes sense now.
Yeah, true. We'll come back to your career and journey a little bit in depth in few minutes. But before that, can you help us understand what's your documentation process at Vizlib, and who is normally involved in defining such processes?
Yeah, certainly. And the documentation process at Vizlib is really based on a CI approach. So we have continual updates to products. New features are being introduced. New products are being introduced. We call them extensions at Vizlib. We currently have the Astrato platform, which is due to go live next week. And for me, documentation usually starts with a technical interview. And I speak to technical SMEs. That could be a developer. It could be a product manager. It could be a DevOps or architect. And we look at what's going to be required in the document and what I need to concentrate on. So I'll get an example of the either the new feature, the new product, and I'll take it away. I'll write out the instructions or any particular information we feel the customer needs, and it's reviewed by the technical SME. If anyone else needs any input, if there's maybe input from a commercial point of view or maybe from support, we can certainly add that as well. And then the article is published. So I usually publish updates every week in some shape or form. That it's not something that tends to get left for too long. And I've found I've really enjoyed the speed of what I do at Vizlib. To work on projects where you maybe don't have a release for a couple of months, or a release is maybe postponed, and you have a lot of changes to prepare at one time. To have a constant stream of changes that you need to keep track of and try attempt to release as the product is going live. That's what I try to aim for myself. That if the product feature has gone live, then the documentation needs to be updated to reflect that as quickly as we can. Yep.
Absolutely. That's very true. That's very true. Kenneth, so how, with all these frequent releases and updates to your documentation, how do you manage your documentation workflow?
I have a Jira board where all of the updates come through. So the Jira ticket will be worked on by a development or a product team. And once the feature is cleared, I'll get the ticket. I'll make the update myself. I'll say, an update's been added at this location. I usually include the URL, and then we set the ticket to released. So it means that at one glance I can see exactly what I have in the pipeline, exactly what needs to be worked on, anything that's being worked on at the moment, and anything that's completed.
True. So, as I said, let's come back to your journey, amazing journey again. 2 months ago, you posted on your LinkedIn marking your 10-year anniversary of your first technical writing assignment. So, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself?
I would say perhaps maybe enjoy it a bit more. I was very keen for my first couple of jobs, and I was very keen that I would succeed at this. So I took it all very seriously. I think that as I progressed in my career and my confidence grew as a writer, I think it was maybe an issue of that. There was it was something very new, and I wasn't really sure how good I was at it. I'd always enjoyed writing, but I never really thought of myself as I certainly didn't see myself as a great journalist or a great author. So to find that I could write about processes and that it was something that I enjoyed doing from a mental point of view. I quite like breaking, a failing of mine as a student was that I always saw the end process. So if you spoke to me about, say, a PhD, I would just see, 100,000 words of work. I wouldn't see, 3 or 4 years working towards that. To me, working on products, it means I can break things down and tackle them a stage at a time. And I found that to be a much more productive way of working. So, yeah, I think I would encourage myself to take that approach in the very beginning, because I used to see. I mean, my first assignment was 4 days at a satellite company who used their satellites to track ships and shipping. So I just saw that I had to produce a document by the end of the week. I didn't look at the research. I didn't look at perhaps doing one section and then coming back to the rest. I looked at having to do everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would. That's the advice I would give to any writer if they feel they're struggling, is just to try and break things down into sections.
So just extending to that question, Kenneth, what are your top tips for getting hired as a technical writer?
Say yes. I've been very lucky to have such a great variety of roles, but I've always tended to have quite a pragmatic approach, particularly at the beginning. When I needed experience, I didn't really turn down any work at all. I had a 4-week contract at a firm called Monetize Create, and it was a best practice project for their for an external pitch they had, but it gave me experience with mobile. So partly I would say, well, why do you want to take a contract for 4 weeks if you could go for something longer? Anything else? But that 4 weeks experience got me my next role, which was for 6 months, and that experience got me my next role. So it's about I think don't see any job as something that you do forever. Look at it as something to build on. And I did take that approach at the start. I mean, I was very lucky to be hired at TfL, but as my time progressed, I could see that my skills were developing. I was understanding a lot more about what was required as a writer in general within an organisation. And once I could see that, I saw the chance to have my first degree. To go back to that, had a great breadth of variety. I studied film studies, politics, history, economics, languages. I've always felt most comfortable and enjoyable when I've been in a general setting, and I can I've got a bit of variety. So that's been a
Yeah. So, as I mentioned in the beginning of the call, the vast amount of experience from different companies and also from the educational background has definitely added various advantages to you, and that has also given you ability to develop skills in many types of documentations, right? Like you mentioned, product user guides, API docs, technical reference, etc. But what is your favorite type of documentation?
My favorite type, I think one that a customer says, it's helped you. If a document helps someone, complete a process or makes their job easier, I think that would probably be my favorite. So I'm a big fan of things like troubleshooting, things like frequently asked questions, reference documents which help the customer get what they want from it, because a set of instructions is really only the first stage, in understanding and sharing information. The next stage is to use the product or to help you get what you need from it.
So again, that also directly helps the company to reduce the amount of support tickets that could be raised, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's from a pure writing point of view, I actually quite like doing reference documents. See, tables of information, sorting information into a table, making sure it looks, regular, everything else. That kind of thing I quite like as well, if that was what you were meaning.
Great. Can you help me understand a little bit about your team structure? Like how many people are there in your team currently, and how do you report on your documentation? Who do you report, etc.? Yeah.
Yeah. So the current size of my documentation team is 1. it is something that I take myself for Vizlib and Strato. And for most of my career, I have worked as the only technical writer in the project or in the organisation. So it's not something that I planned or set out to do. It just always seemed to be the job that I found interesting. That was usually a company that hadn't had a technical writer before or only needed one occasionally. So currently I report into the Chief Operating Officer at Vizlib, Carl Temple, who may well listen to this. I'm going to say he is a very nice man and he's taught me an awful lot. Yes, he's a very good in terms of helping me manage delivery and helping make sure that the continuous integration we have is reflected in how we update documents.
So. Nice. Again, in the last 10 years of your career as document in this field, what has been the most important innovation when it comes to document tracking?
I think version control's something that I use at the moment, which I help. Currently, we have Freshdesk for Vizlib products, and it means that I can roll back a change immediately if a change is required, or I can publish another version immediately. And I think tracking something that's been used. It's used within the Google suite, which I find a big help. And I think probably if I was going to name a particular documentation tool, I would say the Google suite as a review tool. And in terms of tracking changes, is very helpful to me because everyone knows how to use it. So it doesn't matter who the SME is; they're usually able to make updates and improve the document.
Great. I'm guessing your current documentation is a publicly available one. Is it, Kenneth?
It is, yes. There are public sites for Vizlib community. We call the Vizlib site for our product solutions. And the Strato Help Centre is currently live and starting to get noticed. So here we've got, in terms of generating search traffic, that's an area that I didn't really get involved in before Vizlib. The marketing team who have helped me understand about things like sitemaps, things like SEO tags. It's been a very interesting experience.
Great. So in that case, do you know if Vizlib is generating any organic search traffic from your knowledge base?
Yeah, we have viewing figures. So if we can track the number of views that a document gets, we can also track likes and dislikes. So if anyone likes the article, they can leave a comment. If anyone doesn't like the article for whatever reason, they can leave a thumb down. They can also put that comment into words, which helps me a great deal. It means that we have a record of what may need to change in the document, and I can start looking at how to update that. So I find that I've got a very good feedback loop with our support staff. They're always very good at passing on any suggestions to me and any comments from customers.
Nice. So I think with that we are done with all the general questions, Kenneth. So should we move to the rapid fire one? Just 3 more questions. Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Who have you learned the most about documentation from in your career?
I think that the only time that I've worked with a large amount of other authors was at Transport for London, and because it was my first job, I was very keen to learn from them. So I think most of the authors that I worked with there were very, very helpful in setting out just what the job involved and how best to apply yourself within a project on a piece of work. So
nice. Can you share a documentation related resource you have consumed recently?
Yes, I have a LinkedIn contact of mine called Julian Maynard Smith has written the ultimate guide to business writing. So it's available on Amazon and it's available in Kindle form as well. And it's a very, very comprehensive guide to any questions you might have about creating business documents, understanding how to write for a particular audience, how you might like to format and lay out documents. So I'm gonna say I've been very impressed with the way Julian's managed to bring together so much information into one resource. It's great.
Great. Can you name the book one more time, Kenneth?
Certainly, yes. It's The Ultimate Guide to Business Writing.
Ultimate Guide to Business Writing. Fantastic. Nice. So my last question to you today is, what is that one piece of documentation related advice you would give to your 20-year-old self?
You sent me the questions before this, and I just keep laughing when I see this. Because I don't think my 20-year-old self would believe where I am now. I think I would say that writing takes many forms, and you're going to end up doing it. So you might as well accept that and enjoy yourself a bit more. And you have absolutely no idea what is going to happen next.
Yeah.
You just won't believe you will not believe where you end up. Because I certainly, I look at, 20 years ago, my aspirations and what I wanted to do. And it's, it's very different from where I am now.
That's nice. Thank you so much for that, Kenneth. Just anything else I missed to ask you today that you would like to convey to our audiences?
I don't think I've got anything else personally. It's been lovely to talk. I mean, I think I've jabbered on quite a bit. It's been lovely to talk about my career in this way with someone from the profession. So thank you very much for that. I would say that the product I'm currently working to support is launching this week. So if anyone hears anything or sees anything about Strato, please be sure to click through and follow. Particularly if you're involved in data analytics in any way. I think it's really quite a unique solution we've got.
Nice. So good luck with the product launch, Kenneth. So
Thank you very much,
I'm sure it's busy time of the year for you with all the documentations to be in good shape for the new launch. So once again, appreciate all the time you've taken to spread your experience to the audience, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Gowri. All the very best.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Knowledgebase Ninjas Podcast. Please head to iTunes, rate, and provide honest feedback on the podcast. See you next week.